Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. Gonna have another video today about how I knew I was a psychic and a medium. A lot of people ask me this question, and I can understand your interest in that because it's so crazy, right? How do we learn? How do we know that this is something that we can do, or some ability that we have? But before I get started on that, I have to introduce the extremely active dogs in the background. So as you can see, they are very much engaged. So that's how boring I am, apparently. So the black one is Zoe and the tan one is Dasher. So just so you know, Zoe is my spirit dog. She sees spirits and interacts with them, and she is more attuned to them than most dogs. Let's just put it that way. But back to the topic. The topic is, how do you know if you're psychic? How do you know if you are intuitive? How do you know if you can see and talk to ghosts and people that have crossed over? Well, I gotta tell you, it took me until middle age for me to really accept that I could do these things. So if you rewind back to when I was a child, I could see energies, I could see ghosts. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it runs in families. So, I had a brother that kind of played around. He was much older than me, but he played around with that kind of thing. And when I talk to my friends that are psychics and mediums, they often say that someone in their family also had an interest in the occult, or was maybe even playing around with tarot cards or some other kind of occult kind of thing. So that's interesting to me. I really feel like you can almost always find someone in your family that has this interest, or maybe this ability, right? Having said that, I have to tell you that it's just not accepted, right? So even as a child, if you can see ghosts, or you have vivid dreams where ghosts or people come to you, maybe even a person that has crossed over, maybe your grandfather, your grandmother who's crossed over, meaning has passed, maybe they come to you in your dreams. Maybe you've even had an experience where you saw them briefly for a moment, like a flash, right? As a child, as a young adult, this is not really, for the most part, it's not accepted, right? It's not supported in our society. In majority of our societies throughout the world, it's not something that someone would say, Susan, wow, that's amazing that you saw that. Tell me more about it, or let me tell you about your grandmother who also could see these things. That 99% of the time does not happen, right? It just doesn't. So we are left with our own, or left to our own devices. We basically don't want to stand out like a weirdo, so we tamp it down. And it's so funny because if you're watching this video, this has probably happened to you. And we repress it so much that I have to tell you a few things. First of all, it occurred to me for the first time in my life at the age of 54 that as a young person, once I got my driver's license, one of the things that I liked to do was go to bookstores. And I would find myself in the occult section. I would be sitting, I never bought them, but bought the books, but I would sit there and read them in the store, right? I can't bring this home and, have to explain it to my family, or worse yet, get teasing, right, from my brothers and sister. That would be, I don't want to do that. I know I'm going to catch a lot of grief if I do that. So I would just sit in the store and read about astrology and psychic abilities and angels, and basically their whole section was like, candy to me, So what's interesting is I really kind of repressed that memory. I knew I had done that, and I knew that had been an interest of mine, But it wasn't until very recently that I realized, gosh, Susan, that should have been a clue. Maybe that should have been a clue. But that's how repressed we are, right? That we can have these strong interest, yet know that we shouldn't share this with people. I mean, I did not share this with my best friend that I had known. At that point, we had been through middle school and high school and everything else together. I never shared this with her. She knew everything about me, but I never shared it with her because I knew, or I felt like she was going to not take this information very well, and she could potentially think I'm weird and stop being my friend, or tease me or make fun of me. None of the options were good. No, so I want to hopefully tell anybody that's watching this video, if you're 15 or you're 50, now is the time. Our guides and our angels are pulling us off of the bench, as it were. If you were in a sports game and you weren't on the field playing, and you were on the bench, or you were in the reserve or whatever, well, guess what? Now's your time. They are pulling you off the bench and they are saying, get in the game. We need you. And that's why they asked me to do this video today, because this is 2020. This is July 10th, 2020. And I'm going to tell you that next year, 2021, there's going to be a very big demand for spiritual learning and spiritual understanding and connecting. More people are going to want to connect with their guides and connect with crossed over loved ones, and also learn about their soul path and their soul journey. So if you're watching this and you're wondering if you have psychic abilities, or you have some kind of intuition or anything like that, I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you you do, because there are no there are no, what is that word? Coincidences. There's no coincidences. You've been led to this video. You think you may have psychic ability? Let me just tell you, you probably do. So how did I know? Besides spending 2 years in the occult section of a bookstore, I then got out of high school, and I went to college, and I'm a photographer. I went for photography, and I never, ever, ever picked up another book. Never. I never picked up another book or read an article or anything about any of that. I just basically put it into a box, and I locked it up, and I put it away on a shelf, right? So these things happen. It's just what happens, and hopefully that'll change for the younger generations. But right now, that's what happens. So fast forward to my mid-20s, and I started having abilities, or I really, honestly, my main thing is that I can see the other side. So I'm a medium. I can see ghosts. I can feel energies, good or bad, and it got to be a problem because where I live is mostly historic homes, older homes. And so, and the whole darn place is haunted. Seriously. So, when I would rent an apartment in an old home, I'd have to deal with all this, these people, these spirits and energies and entities and whatevers. And so, they would make themselves pretty well known when I was there. So they would sort of, they would actually do things that any normal person could see. So that's what would happen is I'd have my friends over, I'd be a young person, having a good time, having, some people over for a little party, and all of a sudden, the door opens and closes, and everybody's like, did you just see that? I'm like, no, I didn't see anything. So, I kid you not, guys, this went on for, a good 10 years, where I got this reputation among my friends as being the person where weird things happened. And they loved it. I mean, they thought it was cool, right? But I really played it down. I really, I did not accept it. I did not encourage it. I didn't talk about it, I mean, they would ask me, Susan, is there somebody here? Or, they would try to get me to do something, but or say something or be involved in it, and I would just basically say, I don't know, whatever. So that went on for quite a while, and to this day my friends still kind of think of me as the ghost whisperer or something, but I wasn't ready to accept that. I wasn't ready to be that person. I wanted to be normal. We all want to be normal. So I had my normal life, and then at really, I think a lot of this for a lot of us happened around 2012 and 2013, around the Mayan end of the world calendar thing. I think that was a big shift in energy, and I think that's the time frame that our guides came in and said, okay, these people have to start moving towards this or these abilities, because we need them and we want them to start waking up. And so for me, I already could see all these ghosts and I blocked it. I really did. So for me, what ended up happening was I got what I've called on many occasions is psychic diarrhea or mediumship diarrhea, where things would just come out of my mouth, without me, I couldn't stop it, so I'm a slow learner and I'm stubborn. So when my guide said, you need to start doing these things, I was like, no, I'm not going to do these things. I'm not going to do that. I already told you guys, I'm not going to do that. So, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, if you don't participate on your soul journey, your guides will come in and create scenarios to help you get back on track. Believe me. So, they created some scenarios for me to get back on track, and one of those was that I would just start telling people things, so I'm a photographer. I would photograph a high school senior, and I would tell this young lady that I'm in the middle of photographing, and I would say, oh, you're going into the Navy. And then I would realize after I said it that I wish I could just grab those words and stick them back in my mouth, because she had never mentioned anything about going anywhere. She was just trying to get her senior pictures done to make her parents happy and check that off her list and go have a good summer, right? But it would come out of my mouth, and she looked at me and she said, oh my gosh, how did you know that? I haven't even told my parents that. How could you know that? She was freaking out, right? Because I gather she signed up, and she was an older senior. She was 18 at this point. So down south, we do our senior portraits at the end of the year, not at the beginning of the year. I know that's very different for everybody. But so she was already just about almost graduated, and she had not told her parents about this important information, and she was freaking out. And so I just played it off and said, oh, no, you just, you look like somebody who would be, good, going into the services, and the Navy is so fun. I just, woohoo, made up a bunch of stories. And then I, was like, please stop doing that to me. And it kept going. I told a neighbor, I need to talk to you about your daughter. Her daughter had passed away, and I didn't even know that. We really, weren't close. We had just been neighbors for a year. And she said, my gosh, I would love to talk to you. You know my daughter? And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know your daughter. I said, but I can sometimes talk to people that have crossed over. Has your daughter crossed over? Oh, she came in the house and sat down on the couch. She was like, tell me everything. So that's what happened to me. So how did I know I was psychic? Or not psychic. That's a big point there. How did I know as a medium? Well, I could see ghosts and talk to them and energies and all those things, and they basically harassed the devil out of me. Wasn't a good experience for me. But how did I know I was psychic is a whole nother thing. So because I knew I could sense energies and all those things and ghosts, I always thought it'd be cool if I were psychic. I was like, that'd be cool, to be able to know what was going to happen or whatever. And, duh. So I literally didn't think I was psychic, you guys, because maybe it's because I'm so hard-headed and I didn't listen to my guides. But, I have to learn everything the hard way. like literally the School of Hard Knocks was written by me. So I felt like I must not be psychic because they're not helping me do anything. Well, over there on the other side, they probably, had their hair pulled out and, every other thing because, again, I had to learn things the hard way. So how I found out I was psychic was once I started doing mediumship readings. During the readings, their soul guides would come in, your spirit guides would come in and say, we have a message for this person, and this message is that they need to stop putting off going back to school, and they need to go ahead and do it. This is important for their development, and we want to encourage them because this is their correct soul path. And so the psychic messages came in while I was doing mediumship. So that's how I realized that I have both of those abilities. What are the differences between psychic and mediumship? That's a really good question. So psychics can see people that have crossed over. A lot of times a psychic will say, I sense your grandmother, or I sense a female energy that's older, and I think it might be your grandmother, and she just sends love to you. I feel this love coming from her, right? The difference is a medium would be able to say all those things. I sense a female coming through. I feel like it's your grandmother, except for that I know it's your grandmother. It's your grandmother on your father's side, and she loves you very much. But she had a temper, but she was also funny. And it was fun for you as a child because she could be really hilariously funny, but then really get mad at her husband or something. So it was just such a weird personality that you really enjoyed her. You just thought she was, a firecracker. So I'm describing her personality more. That's the first thing, difference in a medium. And then secondly, I can talk to Imelda and say, do you have a message for your daughter? And Imelda can say, yes, I have a message for my daughter or my granddaughter. My message is to tell her that I like the guy she's dating and he's a catch, and she should really consider saying yes when he proposes next week. So the difference is a medium can actually talk and converse, if you will. So I can ask questions and I can get answers, and I can ask questions and I can get answers. Whereas psychics simply pick up on the energy. That's what psychics do. They pick up on energy. So they pick up on the energy of your body. Are you well? Are you healthy? Are you sad or happy? They pick up on the energy around you. So they can pick up on the energy of your housemates, your children. They can pick up on the energy of your, I guess it would be your potentials. So I see that you want to go back to school, and yes, this is a good time, or no, you need to wait a year because these other things are going to come up, and if you do it now, it may be that you don't succeed, and your guides really want you to succeed, so they want you to make a promise to yourself that you'll start, but put it off for X amount of time. So hopefully that makes sense, right? That's the difference between those two things. And how else did I know I was a psychic? Or how else did I know about any of this? I mean, seriously, my guides just pushed me off the cliff because I wasn't going to go. I was not going to go on my own. And that's the story of my life right there. I often tell people, don't be like me. In readings, I often say, don't be like me. Listen to them. You'll be so much happier if you just listen. So hopefully this has been helpful. Let's see, we are at 19 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in there because my guides have been talking about this all morning. How do I get my messages, or how do I communicate? What do I see? What happens, right? As a psychic and a medium. I don't have all the clairs memorized. So, you're clairaudient, you can hear, clairsentient, clairvoyant. There's all different kinds of clairs, and each one describes how you communicate to the other side. So there's clair for tasting, there's clair for hearing, there's clair for seeing, there's clair for knowing. There's all those options available. Some people tend to be really good at one and don't do the others, or some people can do 2 out of the 5. I kind of do them all, and I think it just depends on the person. So I can hear, but I don't like it so much, because sometimes when you hear it, it's so real that it can kind of put you off. It can kind of scare you, or me actually. So I don't really hear like the real voice. Okay, what I do is I can see them. I can sometimes smell, and I can sometimes taste. Smell is more often, so we all do this. I promise you, you have probably had this happen where you're sitting at home, you're by yourself, and you smell cigarette smoke, and you don't smoke, and no one in your house smokes, and you're thinking, I swear I smell cigarette smoke. That is one of your crossed over loved ones visiting you and bringing forth something that you would connect with them. Another popular one is a cologne, a particular perfume, like a roses or some kind of perfume that you would associate with your mother or your grandmother or even a sister. Again, that's that person bringing that experience to you, trying to get your attention, trying to tell you, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, I love you, I want you to know that I'm connecting with you, right? They do a lot of things, but we don't notice it, right? So sometimes if you're in the right zone, or if you think about a radio channel, if you're tuned into the right station, they can bring this in and you can get that message. So I don't taste as much. I very rarely have a taste sensation, right? Where I taste olives or I taste something that somebody particularly loved. I do, I see people and I get intuition or I get messages from them, and I'll often say, I hear them saying that they're sorry for what happened in high school, or they're sorry for what happened right before they passed. I don't really hear it. It's more of a download, right? So they just kind of give me that information. Another interesting thing that happens, and it doesn't happen with every reading, and I haven't figured out why some do it and some don't. But I did a reading a few days ago where basically a young man, I think he was 40, had died, and his wife wanted to check in with him and see how he was doing. And when I checked in with his energy, I could see his face. I described him. He had a furrowed brow, which apparently is something that he did all the time. He was kind of broody and quiet, had dark hair, a little bit of a scruffy beard, thin, slight, not a big guy, probably 5'8" or so. And so anyway, I could see him, but he wasn't really talkative because he was a broody guy. He wasn't like like me, like talking nonstop. And I asked him how he died, because I don't know anything. This lady just said, I'd like to talk to my husband who's crossed over. Okay. So I asked him how he died, and I started feeling in my chest tightness, and I started breathing really hard, like physically, me personally breathing hard, like this, and I'm doing this during the reading, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my chest, and I can't breathe, and I'm like, something happened where he had this heaviness in his chest and felt weak and he couldn't breathe, and she said yes, he died of a heart attack. So I was like, okay. So what you have to do if that ever happens to you is you have to tell them to stop, because if you don't tell them to stop, they don't stop it, because I don't know, maybe they don't think about it, but so I had to learn the hard way when I experienced a headache for 2 hours, to say, I got the message, thank you very much, I appreciate it, but please stop this sensation. So I can also feel what their physical sensation was when they were physically incarnated. They can make me feel dizzy, they can make me feel sick to my stomach, give me a headache, my neck, various things, hand, all these different things, like, oh my gosh, my hand hurts all of a sudden. So these are things that they use with me, in conjunction with me, to tell the client, their loved one, that it's really them. Because, how else do I guess about your hand hurting, So these are all things. So if you're wondering if you're psychic, I would say you are. I would say if you're here and you're watching this, you are. For one thing, a lot of us are. A lot of us are. The biggest problem that you have, if you have any intuition at all, or you've had things happen, or you've had premonitions, that's a thing that a lot of people have, premonitions, and you would like to engage this, right? You'd like to grow this ability. How you do it is, you got to stop the thinking brain from thinking all the time. If you think about it, if you tried to watch 2 TV shows at once, are you going to be able to get, the right information? Are you going to be able to really focus on one TV show with this other TV show going? That's what's happening with us and our brains, with our guides and our angels. They can't get in because our brains are engaged all the time. So how do you do that? How do you stop that? Well, for one thing, that's why they come in when you're sleeping. If you have crazy dreams, or you just feel like you were busy. Have you ever had that? Like, I was busy last night. I don't feel rested because I was so busy. Well, you were busy because they were, coming into your conscious and your subconscious and giving you messages, training you, giving you your next steps on your journey. And when we don't, of course we don't remember that, we wake up and a lot of times we don't have any knowledge of that. So it's basically a wasted opportunity, right? So how you're going to be able to get more connection with your guides and your angels is to meditate. I know people probably are sick and tired of hearing that, but let me tell you, you can do a 30-second meditation, you can do a 1 minute or a 5-minute meditation. And you're not going to be a guru, right? You're not going to be able to clear your brain of all thoughts. That's probably not going to happen. It's just really hard for us to do that. So if you listen to a guided meditation, what happens is your brain can focus on the words, and the words can have an effect on your body. So a relaxing guided meditation is wonderful because it'll make you relaxed and it'll make you feel good, and it'll open up just a little bit your ability to get inspirations and messages, okay? So meditations are great, guided meditations are great. Go on YouTube, you can search them. If you find one that you like, use it. If you don't like the voice, you don't like the music, go to the next one. But please do it, it's so important. So another way to get information from your guides is to do a hobby. Do something you're very focused on. So maybe it's crocheting, maybe it's knitting, maybe it's woodworking, maybe it's art, maybe it's playing music, maybe it's exercising or taking a walk. Anything where you can be engaged. And then what happens is when you're so focused on this one task, your brain isn't going 90 miles an hour. You're focused on one task. And for some reason, they're able to really come in at that time and give you insights. You'll have an insight like, wow, I just had this great idea. I don't know where it came from. I was just doing this woodworking and boom, this idea came in. That's your guides. These are your guides talking to you. These ideas just don't poof come out of thin air. They come from your guides and your angels. So you just have to create an opportunity for them to connect with you. Okay? So that's what I would suggest. And I'm so happy for you because I know that you're going to be connecting now with your guides and your angels, and listen to them. Why not trust it? Why not listen to them? That's the other thing is, I just had a friend yesterday tell me how much I had helped her because she got guidance, but she didn't trust it. So she's a very analytical person, and so she analyzed it and decided that there wasn't data. It was just an idea that popped into her head, so she didn't trust it. Well, now in this last year, she has started trusting these ideas and insights and guidance, and she has really changed so many things in her life for the better. And it's all because she trusted it. So that's the other thing. You have to be able to say, I'm going to trust this. I'm going to act on it, and I'm going to trust it, and I'm just going to do it. So hopefully this video helped you guys. I know that majority of you guys are psychic and mediums. If you're watching this video, you are. Obviously, another thing is oracle cards, tarot cards, all things to look into, and that your guides can come in through the cards and help you. Oracle cards are amazing. They can really, it's like super therapy. Like if you need to figure out what's going on in your life, buy some oracle cards, pull them, read the responses. Your guides are talking directly through those cards, people. Seriously. So I hope this inspires you. I hope it inspires you to get moving towards this, and to know that you have the ability yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it helped you. That's why I do them. And if you'd like to know when I have more videos, hit the little bell. That's a subscribe button. If you liked the video, please like it. If you liked it a whole bunch, please share it with some friends. That would be super awesome. And I will see you guys again soon, hopefully. And until then, many blessings, guys.